at the moment we're going to start by mixing some butter and our sugar and our eggs. Just press everything together until it's all combined. You want the butter to be soft enough that you can press into it, but not so soft that it's runny. It's my son's birthday party tomorrow. He's having a laser tag birthday party, and one of the things that I am making for the party is these cookies. So I figured, since I'm making them anyway, I would just, I've got other things that I am demonstrating and other things I'm filming because I'm planning to make it into a tutorial video. But this is something that I kind of decided to do last minute. I didn't put too much thought into it originally. I was going to do cookies, but I didn't really fuss over what type of cookies. It was just going to be cookies in general. But I made the decision today, pretty much, that I was going to do these cookies, kind of because I wanted some. It's also a nice flavor that I haven't done yet, and it's a little bit similar to other things I've done, which is why I'm not really running through the this is what and what and what. But if you are interested in a more thorough, detailed video on how to make these cookies, leave a comment and let me know exactly what flavor style you'd like and what fruit style you'd like. And if you just happen to have any questions about making cookies, go for it in there as well, because that's where you can talk to me. We've got a pinch of vanilla. I've been making cookies for such a long time that I don't even have to measure it anymore. I can eyeball what I'm doing, and I know my measurements, I know my proportions, and it makes it so much faster and easier. You want to keep mixing until all of your egg and butter are combined. There's white sugar in this. I normally would put a little bit of white sugar and a little bit of brown sugar, but I'm not adding any brown sugar to this one because they're only going to be small cookies, and that will make it a little bit too soft to hold the raspberries into the baking. I've got some white chocolate chips. I'm adding them now because they will mix in with the other ingredients, and you'll actually get a little bit of a white chocolate. You'll actually get a little bit of a white chocolate flavor through the base of the cookie rather than just a white chocolate piece of chocolate when you get to it. That's a trick. Egg actually holds its flavor very well, and if you want to make something retain its flavor better, add it to the egg. Pinch of salt. You may have noticed I don't always add salt to different recipes depending on what the add-ins are. Like with the raspberries, sometimes it actually enhances the flavor of the raspberry, but something like cherries that are a little bit more of a bite to them in the flavor, you don't want to add anything that's going to distract from that one flavor because it's such a strong flavor on its own. Some flour. So on days like today when I'm planning on making lots of different things, I will actually get all of my mixing bowls out and portion out specifically what's going where, so that I can keep track of which ingredients I need to buy more of before I get into the baking. I'm going to use about half of the flour that I've got portioned here. And stir it in. That's for this amount of cookies. I normally do 1 cup of flour for 1 egg, and usually 2 eggs will make a decent batch of cookies, especially if you're not making them too big. And this is going to be a little bit of a firmer cookie because it needs to be able to hold the raspberries in place. You don't want it to be too soft. So now I'm going to swap over to the spatula because most of the flour is actually already combined. And you know what? I've been talking about making things a little bit less perfect and putting effort in to being more confident in the skills that I have and the things that I'm doing. And I'm going to do that today. Instead of going through and editing everything, I'll cut out anything that doesn't have to be in the video, but I'm going to pretty much upload this straight away. It's one fly trying to get into where it's nice and warm, trying to keep itself warm. It's rather annoying actually. And if you tell me, where the hell did winter come from? Where on earth did winter come from? It is so cold right now. I feel like winter sprung up out of nowhere. I'm going to add a little bit of the flour to the bench and pop the rest aside. Make it spread out just a little bit. Turn the dough out onto the bench. You may be wondering, where are the raspberries? Well, that's what's next. I want to get the base sorted first, and you'll see, you've probably seen recently that I sometimes like to hide the extra bits and pieces inside. Like when I made the cherry ripe cookies and I added chocolate inside. Pretty much the same thing. You wrap some of the cookie dough around one of the raspberries. And right now I could not for the life of me find raspberries anywhere. Maybe because I was only just trying to find them today. If I had tried a little bit harder or thought about it longer, maybe I would have been able to make time to go and buy some elsewhere. But where I live, it takes a long time to get from my house to the nearest town, and it takes a long time to get from the nearest town to the next nearest town. So it's more than just, oh, I want to get some milk, I'm running down the road. It's make plans to be away for the whole day, which is doable actually. Like, it is something that I'm not adverse to. Now normally I would allow this to chill so that I can then add the layers, but I'm not going to at the moment. Today I'm going to make each individual cookie with the raspberry inside and set that aside to cool rather than letting the batter cool down. And you'll see it's going to be exactly the same as usual. Just a little bit of folding. Remember not to knead your dough too much because it can make them tough. Pick up some of that flour. There is a level of kneading that you can do, and there's a level of kneading that you can't do. Kneading like bread, no. Kneading like Play-Doh. If you mix your butter correctly at the beginning, you can do a little bit more of a Play-Doh type fold, which is what I'm doing here. And just as it still feels a little bit sticky, add a little bit more flour. This is about 2.5 to 3 cups worth of flour that I've got here. And I've got the 2 cups for the purpose of how much I need for the recipe. And I've got a little bit extra because sometimes you do need a little bit extra if it's a particularly large egg, or if it's cold and things aren't combining together properly, which that's not the problem right now. But if there is something causing your dough to need a little bit of extra flour, having a little bit extra for the purpose of working it just makes it a lot easier to have it prepared before you start. Because if you've got dough and flour all over your hands, it's a whole big hassle and a time source to go get all that stuff in the middle of baking. I was actually a little bit worried that I wouldn't be able to do a video for everything that I'm doing tonight, because I've got several different things that I'm trying to bake ready for tomorrow. So being able to just chit chat with you while I'm putting this together, it does actually make things a little bit easier. And like I said, I have done recipes like this before. This is very similar to my cherry wrap cookies with something wrapped inside. It's got a vanilla base, it's got cherries, it's got fruit. But like as well, if you want me to actually sit down and focus on doing a tutorial video for this, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment, let me know. Notice how I'm pushing more than anything, because mixing the flour with the butter at the right stage, it coats the flour with the oil from the butter, so it doesn't really want to develop the gluten because it's finding it difficult to. And that makes it easier to be a little bit rough. And that's why technique will make the dough. Technique makes the difference. I'm already smelling the white chocolate. It smells so beautiful. This cookie is actually going to have a vanilla white chocolate flavor to the chocolate, to the base of the cookie. And if you wanted to, if you don't like raspberries, you can put something else in there. Like I considered strawberries when I went out. There were strawberries, but there weren't any raspberries. I thought of blueberries, but there's this whole thing about my son and blueberries. It apparently came from Minecraft. He had like this thought that blueberries weren't very nice, and I found out later it had something to do with an update on Minecraft. But anyway, you can put any, I'm not going to say any, you can't do any. There are some fruits you can't put in here. You might be able to put something in the berry family-ish. Something with a stone. Like you could do apples, you can maybe pears? I don't know. Ooh, that sounds like an interesting thing. This is pretty much how I came up with my what would happen if I made something with peacock egg and duck egg videos. That's pretty much how that came about. Ooh, I wonder what would happen if I did. So, that might be coming up soon too. Okay, looks like I've got plenty now. And as you see, even though it looks like I'm kneading it, it's still super soft, it's still super separate, it's not going to be a tough cookie. Because I'm not really kneading it the way that you would knead bread dough. And I'm using my hands to hold it in, but I'm using my fingers to control what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to pop that aside. I have another batch of cookies that I think I'm going to do tonight, maybe, if I get the chance to. So I'm going to spread this out. Yes. And yes, of course, my hands are clean. Always. Spread it out. Get some flour. Just spread it out a little bit. Makes it a little easy to work with. And don't crush your chocolate chips. Only roll it to about what feels right, I'm going to say. What feels about right, because you might be using a different type of chocolate chip than I am. So I can't really say use this size when it may not be the right size. Okay, so I am actually going to use a cutter to help me portion out these cookies, because I find it makes it easier to put them out when they're all the same size. I do have a little bit of OCD. Some of it comes from the style of work that I used to do, just how detailed and controlled everything needed to be. And some of it comes from having control over something. It's a way of taking control when you really don't have control. I think Olaf said it the best from Frozen: controlling what you can when you feel out of control. I can't fit another one there. I'm just going to take the extra out. When you roll your dough and mix it in the particular steps that I used, it makes it easier to re-roll as well, because you're not causing your dough to get tough gradually as you're rolling it and re-kneading it, because the butter is already coating the flour, it's already doing what it's supposed to do, it's already making it hard for the gluten to form in the first place. So I'll show you. I'm going to put this aside for now, and I'm going to show you how to put the raspberries in. Now I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't get fresh strawberries, I couldn't get fresh raspberries today. I was able to get strawberries, I just chose not to. I don't really like strawberries. I've got some raspberries. Portion a few out. These are frozen raspberries, which is quite handy when they're not in season. You get one, just double check that I'm in frame. Yep, I'm in frame. My camera faces away from me, or it faces toward me, but the screen faces away, so I can't see if I'm in frame sometimes. Or my lights are sometimes wrong too. Right in the middle, just fold it around. Just pinch it a little bit. Just to seal it up. And we're going to pop these on a tray, but we're going to put them in the freezer for a little bit. If you get little bits that keep opening up, just pinch the dough until it closes again. Give it a good roll. If you get air stuck in there, which I think I have air stuck in there, give me 2 seconds. If you think you've got air stuck in there, pinch it. Quick poke, pinch and roll it again. And because I've cut them all the same size, they're all going to end up the same size. Another one. And just keep going around until all of your raspberries and cookies are put together. Now, so you don't have to sit through this bit because I'm going to try and do it relatively quickly, I might jump you. So I've just turned my oven on and it's going to preheat while I finish this up and while I have these in the fridge for a little bit, because I will put them in the fridge just for a few minutes. But I thought I'd let you know that if you do it like I have and you've got the chocolate chips in there, the biggest thing is not to push the chocolate chips out. You want the raspberry to be nicely concealed on the inside so that when you bite into it, you have this lovely soft raspberry on the middle. And as it bakes, it'll kind of go like a little bit of a jammy kind of texture to it. And also that if you push a little dent into the middle and you can feel the chocolate chips moving, it gives you somewhere to put the raspberry right in the middle so that you can shape around it. This way someone will pick up the cookie and see just the tiniest little bit of indication there's something on the inside, unless you make it bleed like I just did. When you're baking cookies like this and you're portioning them out like this, you don't have to put them all out at once as well. You can bake them one at a time if you want to. These will last in the freezer if you wanted to make up a batch and stick them in the freezer. A couple of weeks, maybe a few months, depending on what your conditions are like, what your freezer is like. And do excuse my unicorn onesie, I love this damn thing. It keeps me warm, and it's pink, and it's got, you can't see it, but it's got glittery things on it, and it has a horn, and it has a tail. And the hood even has a mane, so it's good. I was thinking about getting a new one, a second one I should say, but we might be moving to Queensland, and if we move to Queensland, best I can tell is I'm not going to need something to keep me warm. It's so hot in Queensland. I've only been once, but it almost killed me because it was so hot. I don't handle hot very well. I can handle cold because I can warm up, and I can handle cold because I enjoy warming up. Believe it or not, my dream destination is Canada. So shout out to my friends in Canada. I've got Beamsy, I've got Leo. If you're from Canada, give me a comment and let me know. These would probably be doing a lot better if they were very frozen, but they are not as frozen as they could be because I'm busy and rushing. There's another tip. If you're not rushing to get them done tomorrow, let them be frozen. I'm actually up this late baking because in order to get everything planned out and organized, and this is something that stops me a lot of the time when I'm trying to do a video. My daughter is almost 2, and because she's almost 2, she's going through that I want no one but you stage, and I need her to go to bed so that I can have 2 hands to do anything. She has her own little step and she stands on the step next to me while I'm making everything, and if she was here right now she would be eating these raspberries, and when there were no raspberries left she would be eating the cookies trying to get the raspberries, because she's that person, which is not a bad thing. It's actually a pretty good thing. I would prefer that I have kids that want to eat the fruit. This one's bleeding. It's okay, a little bit of pink is not bad. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to taste amazing anyway, if I do say so myself. Hair in my face. And I do like the quiet and the mellow. Having quiet time, even before making videos, even before YouTube, I would stay up late to do baking for my family, for birthdays, for Christmas. It's always been one of my traditional things to watch Nailed It while I'm baking gingerbread cookies at Christmas time. I can't explain that, but if I ever had the chance to go on that show, probably not as a contestant, because the idea is that the contestants can't bake or cook or anything, and I don't feel comfortable saying that I'm rather proficient in the kitchen, but I am, and that's one of those things that I need to get over. I need to encourage myself. I know my value. Part of the reason why I question myself anywhere is because the cause of my trauma was someone who worked as a cook, and he said he trained as a cook. I don't believe that now, but he said that because he was trained and being paid to do that task, and that I never was, that by default he was better than me in the kitchen. But time and time again I would be able to prove that's not true. Get all the air out. So, pinch, pinch, pinch. And because it's a kid's birthday party, they don't need to be very big, and I don't need to make all of them. I can leave the rest of the batch as they are. So the little pieces of time when I'm walking away from the camera are likely to be the times when I scoop out, so I'm going to try and edit less. So I keep my spare baking tins, my flat ones at least, in the bottom part of my oven. It's something, I think maybe it's a habit I picked up from my yaya, because she used to do it. If you do that too, because I don't use my grill. If I'm making meat or something, I use my saucepan and I cook it on the stove, or I cook it in the oven. If you're like me and you bake the way I do, let me know, because I'd like to hear that too. I'm not going to bake them all this distance from each other. They will spread slightly, but not very much. But I'm going to pop these in the freezer for a little while, then split them between my two blue trays, and I'm going to get baking. So I've made the decision, I've got just enough cookie dough left that I'm going to wrap it and pop it in the freezer. So next time I want cookies, I can actually just take a slice off, and it's exactly like store-bought and rolled cookie dough. You just cut a slice, you've got a circle, bake a cookie one at a time. There you go. It's pretty easy, and it's best to do it while the cookie dough is still soft. And this is still pretty soft. You just gently shape it into somewhat of a cylinder. And you can even do this with dough that is a lot stickier, like my raspberry, what am I trying to say? Floopy with my words. My cherry ripe cookies, they were very soft. You can actually do this with those, so you can have a perfectly cut round when you're baking your cookies. Just over, smooth it, and roll it. And then hold the ends and roll it. It took me forever to learn how to do this, because everyone who was doing it so fast that you couldn't keep your eye on what they were doing. I eventually learnt through just practice and repeat, because it just all seemed to happen way too quickly and no one was really demonstrating it. No one was trying to show you exactly what it was. But if you fold everything in one direction and just use the momentum on the table, it pulls itself into a nice little twisty cylinder in the first place. So I can leave it exactly like that and pop it in the freezer. Got them evenly spaced out on 2 different trays. To make sure I've got them on 2 different trays and I've got the same number on each one, it just makes it easier so that they don't spread into themselves. They won't spread very much because when you freeze them before baking them and they go straight into the freezer, straight into the oven from the freezer, they don't soften in the middle as quickly as they cook on the outside. So the outer shell starts to bake, the base starts to bake, and the inside exactly like a cake. So you're basically using the reason we don't bake cakes a certain way to make cookies the right way. It will cook on the outside, slowly on the inside it will start to rise and spread as it thaws out, because if it starts to cook it will stop rising. And that's the reason why with a cake you want it to bake evenly across so it rises evenly everywhere. With a cookie you want it to kind of rise up in the middle, because I see so many recipes where the cookies don't look very appealing because they're crunchy and hard. I don't like crunchy cookies. That's why all of my recipes are based around getting a nice soft chewy cookie that is not chewy at the same time. It's just, how do I explain? I don't know, no words. They can talk for themselves. And we're going to pop them in the oven for 10 minutes at 150 degrees. So they're all done now. As you can see, they've slightly popped open a little bit, showing off the beautiful raspberry on the inside. There's nothing wrong with that. We could have done them by adding the raspberries. We could have done them by adding the raspberries directly to the rest of the recipe in the same way that we have done with other recipes, but I didn't want the cookie itself to change color. I wanted it to stay white, and I wanted it to have the white chocolate flavoring to it. So I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope you enjoyed the recipe. If you want a more detailed video on the recipe, let me know in the comment section, and look forward to seeing you again next week.